Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of the WeAreDevelopers Live Days. My name is Benedict, I'm Community Manager here at WeAreDevelopers, and I'm happy that you all joined us today. So today is all about security, but before we start with the first talk of the day, just a quick reminder that our World Congress takes place in late July in Berlin as an in-person event. To check out further information and to claim your early bird tickets, go to worldcongress.dev as the time for the early birds run out in 2 days' time. So, and after that, before we start with the first talk, during the talk, feel free to interact in the chat to your right. If you got any questions, feel free to submit them via the big blue ask button. But as usual, please be nice to each other and respect each other as we have a code of conduct. Here's a short video about it. And right back to security. And the first speaker of the day is Head of Information and Data Management at SWM Infrastruktur. He studied electrical power engineering and is active in the DSO Cybersecurity expert group. Welcome, Kurt.
Yes, welcome, Benedict. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, the pleasure is all on our side, Kurt. So happy to have you today. So before we start with your talk, which is actually kind of a workshop, if I'm informed correctly, would you mind giving us some insights into the topic which we are going to learn from you today?
Yes, of course. I mean, what cybersecurity is, we are looking to it from serving the city. So Stadtwerke Munich is really, we're serving all energies, water, transportation and this kind of stuff. And it's really for us about a year ago when the Ukrainian war started, let me say like this, it's a new push came into that you think about, are we really up to the level that we can protect our critical infrastructure?
Okay, yeah, so very, very important topic even nowadays. So I would say, before we steal any more of your precious workshop time, Kurt, stage is all yours.
Yes, welcome everybody. And as you can read, what makes cybersecurity different for critical infrastructure? And feel free, if you have any questions, if you have comments, feel free to interrupt me or feel free to question. Then we can pick up this question right at this point in time, or we can also put it on a parking lot and answer it later if this is more suitable. And okay, so first 2 slides For the Stadtwerke Munich and what is driving us, this is our mission that you can see what we stand for, and our targets, our aim is we keep Munich running around the clock. So, and the guiding principle here, you can rely on us. So we want to serve the city, and this is really driving us. And in which direction are we looking? Our vision is like Munich is a shining example of a networked city with a high quality life. And so which things do we provide? And these are the five main things we provide. And starting from the energy, it's nearly the whole area of energies like electricity, natural gas. District heating is now upcoming very much as natural gas is going down. District cooling is also in the center of our city, very important, because a lot of hotels and super shop markets, they are looking for district cooling. And we serve also for water, drinking water, as you see below, and this is all the grid of the Munich. We also run the mobility, like the buses and the undergrounds. Very special probably is we go also for telecommunications, for the fiberglass, and we are running 17 public pools in Munich, which is probably the ones most funny in the summer and the best shop you can have here. So it's a really wide variety what we are serving here. When it comes to cyber attack, then there is always the question of downtimes. And when you read then, I just pick up one of the analysis, and the average downtime of the companies after a severe cyber attack is between 7 and 21 days. It depends a bit which kind of cyber attack it was. It depends also a bit how good you are prepared. And the backup typically only addresses a small part of the ransomware recovery. So you need also to have a plan how to get the backup in place, and you need also to first get rid of your ransomware. And as you see there, what's most important for us, the ransomware attacks involve huge undetected dwell times. And the IBM study said it's about 287 days before you really, 212 days to detect and 75 days to contain. So in many cases, your attacker is for a long time in your network. He's spying you, and he's really looking forward what you're doing before you attack them. And after the attack really happens, 7 days to 21 days. And now we come back to the same slide. And the question is, which downtime is acceptable for each of these sectors? And probably with the public pools, yes, it might be very comfortable if you're in the hot phase of the summer, if you cannot go to swim, but 7 days to 21 days, yes, it might not be a big problem. Telecommunications or drinking water, now it's getting to be a problem. You might serve drinking water with a truck, but the telecommunication, you might switch to another communication media like your mobile phone. But this is already a bit tricky. Mobility, now it's getting even more problematic. I mean, during Corona, we know now a lot more or a lot better how restricted mobility can work, but still there are a lot of situations where you need mobility, and if you have some days no mobility, it will be an issue. You might go to a car, you might find solutions. But when we go to the left upper corner with the energy, then you're in the parts like district heating, district cooling. If it's in the winter and you don't get district heating, your house will not cool down within half an hour or an hour. So you might have half a day, might not be that of a problem. Also with natural gas, which is mainly used for heating of houses. But when it comes down to the electricity, then you typically have a real problem. In the electricity sector, probably the blackout is now is used in a lot of newspapers and in a lot of the commentars. So blackouts is something you have immediately, and even after 10 minutes or half an hour, you're facing some problems. And if it takes longer, you're facing real problem. So the downtime for the energy, for the electricity sector, yeah, that's a real issue. And this is where we really looking forward. And this is the first conclusion we have for the critical companies like the SVM. When we are serving this critical infrastructures, we need really to strive for minimal downtime. Kritis is a word, an abbreviation from the German, which actually describes in German the critical infrastructure. Our economic loss is only a very small part of the overall loss, because if we don't sell electricity, there are some kilowatt hours we don't sell, and this is, if it's for one day, we might be in a position that we say, okay, we can go this. But if it's our clients, the public, the Munich citizens, they have a much more problem, and their economic loss is far huge from ours. So it's really, it's really an issue that it's not only on our business, it's on the business of the Munich citizens. And so redundancy is a little bit in the DNA of an energy company. We always have a plan B. And so we always think about, if happens this, how can we serve in another way? The most part in our infrastructure are in a -1 redundancy. So if one asset fails, we are in a position that we can still keep everything running without any loss of energy transmission. Okay, so then let's have a look to the attacker. I mean, who is attacking critical infrastructures? And if you have a look back, then this is a bit a typical picture. A lot of people think about a one person. They think about of a script kiddie, of something who went to do something malicious, and the attacker is very often unknown because it's hidden somewhere. Sometimes you think about the attacker in a foreign country, and this is something we have been prepared. If you have a look to about 5 or 10 years ago, this was our main goal, to prevent against a single attacker or a small group of attackers. So this was our initial starting point to say cybersecurity we are looking for. Then you see here the cyber bunker. Maybe some of you have known the stories, and this is already a first professional running cyber crew they bought, and this is a picture of the first cyber bunker in Netherlands. And on the right hand side, you see the data center. It's in the second bunker they had in Germany, and they used it as a server farm for the darknet. And they started as a company, as a data center company, but they only did the legal stuff. They also did the darknet stuff. But at this point in time, it was already a company which was the attacker. So at this time, it was already not a single individual. It started to get more professional. It started to be more serious in this point. And in our days, this is like the group of the sandworm. Probably some of you already know them because the Vulkan files, they are quite popular now. But this is the office building you see here. is from the Google Maps. It's the glass building right in the middle, and it's the GRU 74455 is the number of the secret service unit in Russia, and they are acting under the codename Sandworm. And this is a real business. So this is real. They are structured. There are departments. So this is not a small group of people. So this is really something you see. It's a large business. And here you can see recent details. Probably many of you have saw it, the Vulkan files. The Sandworm group, they gave to other companies, they gave the order that they are developing code for them that they can use, and that was really, it's a business like building a tank or building a plane. For the military, they are really building code. They are building software for groups like Sandworm. So the attacker has significantly changed. The possibilities of the attackers had significantly changed. The amount of money they have, the time they have. This is now, we're in a new playing field actually. And this is also, sorry for the German in the slide. I didn't find this one in English, but this is a slide where you see with the green, the dark blue, and the middle blue, you see the years from 2019 to 2022. And what you see in the first, in the top row, is that organizations, they are really speeding up from the 21 or 29% to the 51%. So really the organized cyber hacking, they are really upcoming, and they are now already the major. And I'm sure if we see the figures for 23, it will be even more. The others, they are, yes, private persons, they are still there. Also employees or former employees, they are also there, but and then it comes down to suppliers or to customers, or even there like external CIA and external suppliers. So they are smaller, but really the organization is going also a step forward in the cybercrime. You see a real professionalism. And so this is a kind of our second conclusion. We see we are not defending against script kiddies. The attackers we are facing, they are really professionals. And in severe cases, military cyber units try to interrupt or destabilize the energy system. And we saw this in the Ukraine war, that they're really targeting to the infrastructure. They are targeting to radio and TV stations, to the energy services. So these services are really in the focus when it comes to hard war, or when it comes to the first stages. What you see here, the picture is quite good. It's the first time we saw a malware which was attacking the classical IT and what we call the operational technology, the OT, so the IT parts which are really serving our energy networks. And this is Europe by night, and you see on the left-hand side the picture before, where everything is illuminated, and you see, of course, some areas which are more illuminated, some less. And on the right-hand side, you see that dark area. This is the Ukraine area, and this is really in December 2016. There was a malware called Crash Override or Industroyer. There have been two names for the same malware, and they have been attacking the Ukraine energy network. And what was very special at this time was we saw in the past, before 2016, we saw people attacking a typical IT communication of a company. So it's like the servers, the email servers, and network devices. But typically, these groups don't have the possibility that they are attacking the industrial OT facilities. And what we saw there is that the first time both attacks have been combined. So the attacker were starting in the typical company network, and they were making the path forward by lateral movement, and they're making the path forward to the core components of the energy network. And then they started the malware to actually to shut down the energy network. And this was the first time we saw this, that specialists have been combined in that way. And this was, of course, a bit the moment when we said, okay, what would happen if someone would attack us? And then we started some investigation, and something is special. These are the now coming pictures from this slide and the next ones. They are from our own energy distribution network, and this is one of the recent the recent cabinets where we have our OT equipment, and you see by looking at it, you don't have to be a specialist. This looks quite modern. This looks nice, and this is well ordered and up to date. And I have one sentence up, which is critical infrastructure components are expected to have about 20 years lifetime, maybe 15 years. So it's not a hard limit, but we expect that when we implement or when we construct and erect some of this protection relay equipment, what you see here, that we can operate it for about 15 to 20 years. But this is also a current picture. So this is not something in an exhibition area. So this is infrastructure which is in operation. So this is also the truth that you look on the left-hand side. You see old relays, you see old equipment, and this is still in operation. There are a number of reasons for that, and you see on the right-hand side down, you see already one new protection relay. So the estimation would be that at this place, the old one was out of service, it was damaged, it was not functioning anymore, and so we did some maintenance work and we replaced it with a new one. And this is something that we have a large variety actually, and our equipment is going back to 40 years sometimes. So depending in which area you're looking, depending in which substation you're looking, you find very old equipment. And this is also another example. These are the primary switch gears you see here on the left-hand side for a 10 kV switch gear, and in the middle of each door you see the protection relays, and this is one of our newer. And in the same substation, if you go to another part of the building, then you see this old switch gear. This was already refitted with one new relay, but as you see with the handles on the left side, you see that this switch gear is, I would say, about 40 or 50 years old, and it's still in operation. And this is, of course, we are economic people. If something is working, we say, okay, why should we change this? And this was the approach we had in our past. And this comes to the third conclusion we have. Typical office IT is renewed at least every 5 years. If we look in our companies, our laptops, our typical systems, sometimes every 3 or 4 years. Okay, I see just one question in the chat. How long would it take to replace all the old infrastructure and update it to newer technologies? Yeah, that's a good question. We are now started a lot of projects to do this, but typically, if you want to renew a complete substation, it takes you about 2 to 3 years. So if you have, like in the area of Munich, you have a little bit more than 30 substations. So if you want to renew them all, you're something in the range of 40 years. And this is roughly the lifetime you expect for a primary system. So in principle, you can, it's a rolling process. When you're refitted the last one and you did the design, you can start at the beginning with the first one. And what we did in the past is that for our secondary systems like the safety relays, you would have the 20 years rolling circle. So you have within this cycle of the primary of the switch gears, you would have to do one circle to renew the secondary relay systems. And this was not done in the past. We are now changing our system completely to do this and to make it up. I saw another question here from Sandra, which is, I think, would fit quite well. How often does it happen that critical infrastructure is attacked? How big are those attacks, and what are the consequences? I mean, there are the two parts. What I said at the beginning. In critical infrastructure, it's typical that your attacker tries to be in your system undetected and to be a spy and to see all the information. We don't know if we have an attacker which is not detected. So at the moment, we are in the lucky situation that all our security measures prevented a really severe attack. So up to now, we have no. But if you have a look to others, it depends that they are attacked. The problem a bit for this is when an attack is severe or when attack is like something that you say it's a normal business. If you have a DDoS attack, for example, and we see a DDoS attack maybe once a year or something like that, a severe DDoS attack to our servers, to our web servers. Yes, it happens, and this happens also to other companies, but we wouldn't rate this as a severe attack to our critical infrastructure. But I would say a more severe attack to our office IT infrastructure would happen so once a year, something like that. And of course, sometimes you have also attacks you're able to defend right at the beginning. We don't count them so precisely. Okay. I see that. Okay, this topic is quite hot, and I see some of the question. How much would it cost? Yeah, that's quite tricky because when you do this refit of a substation with a cost, it's typically there are some parts of the cost. If you have a new switchgear, for example, if the primary systems which are really doing the switching, then they're very much often heavier than the old ones. So they're a better build. There is more metal, so there is more support you need from the concrete, you need from the floor. They are very often in the first floor, so there is one floor down. And what we see very often that we need to do some additional support in the building to really put the switchgear there in. This takes quite a long time and it's quite expensive. The switchgear itself is not that expensive. For one of the parts of a substation like a 10 kV, you can save one cabinet. We saw. I just go on to the slide here. So like this one cabinet, it's about in the range of about below 100,000 euros with erection, construction, and things like that. But still, it little bit depends what is the surrounding. But yes, it's a lot of money you need to spend. And what is more our problem, you need the experts to do this. So doing this refit, you need a lot of skilled and very good people to do these things. I see another question from Antonio, and these big measurements, are these big measurements and principles also scalable to a much smaller scale, like example, your own smart home? Some of the principles are for sure you can transfer, but of course, if you look to this to a large company like ours, with a lot of specialists, you have a lot of departments, and probably we are very segmented. And if you have a questions, you go to a specialist and you find the answer. And if the specialist can give the answer right now, it probably in a week he can give you the answer, or she. And this is something, if you transfer it to your smart home, I'm running a smart home by myself, but I'm not a specialist in every area. And so, of course, it's a bit more tricky to that. And so the principle itself is sometimes transferable, but how to work it out, this principle is, I think it's quite different. And what we see here, on the right-hand side, I put a picture, and they are nearly out of our system. It's very old. It's from the 1970s. They are safety relays. There is a modular building of these relays, and they are safe against cyber attacks. So we have some of our old equipment. There is no IT connection. There is nothing you can attack. There are simply standalone working components. And so there is really, they are from a security point, we are quite happy with them. When it comes to the functional point, that they really do their protection switches when there is a failure. This is, of course, that's the case why we changed them. And if you go to a vendor today, to Siemens or ABB or Hitachi, whatever, they don't sell you this kind of equipment anymore. And there is a third point we have here down, which I think is quite important, the equipment capabilities. So if we look, and I go back to one of these, to the updated, to really this one, to this relays we have here, even if they are, I think they're 3 years old, so they are from a 20 years lifetime span, they're up to date and they're good. And if you look to these kind of relays, then this is what I write down here. They're from an IT perspective not up to date. So there's maybe TLS encryption or SNMP management, role-based access is something. These relays are not capable of that. And so you need to think about, what can I do with a relay, which is 3 years old when we bought it, but it was out on the market maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and the design for these relays were even like 10 years ago. And 10 years ago is quite a long time for cybersecurity. So you have a new equipment which is, from a cybersecurity perspective, already old-fashioned. So we need to have workarounds, and this is something where this is one of our main, one of the topics we are really looking into. And then there is another point. I mean, this is what we had a look now, or in the last slides, were the more operational look. So these are the parts at the SVM where the engineers and the guys which are very specialized, they are out in the field and they're doing maintenance, they're doing testing and all this kind of stuff. There are other people, I'm more on this side, on the guideline side, and we have really fast developing guidelines. I just put here an overview of some standard ones, like the ISO 27000 family. which we are certified in Germany. Each critical infrastructure needs to be certified on the ISO 27000 family, and this is quite normal for us. It was invented roughly about 10 years ago or 8 years that we are forced to do an audit in the 27000. There is also the BSI standards. They are including business continuity management. And if you look to the vendors, when they do the development and of their relays, of the hardware, they are more focused on the IEC 62443. And this is a international standard for industrial communication networks and network system security. And it's focusing on both. It's focusing on the system itself, and it's focusing on each single equipment. But also upcoming, what now is a little bit from the European perspective, the Radio Equipment Directive, or now the NIS2 directive, they are really driven from Brussels. And the CER directive, the resilience of electrical entities. And in Germany, we are right now from, today or tomorrow, we will have to feedback to our national authority that we are ready to fulfill the basic standards of the IT-Sicherheitsgesetz 2.0. So it's a new national law which we need to fulfill, and this tells us basically that we have to have certain capabilities in detecting a cyber act, and we have people looking to the different log files and so on. So there, and the deadline is end of May, so we need end of April, so we need 1st of May, we need to feedback to a national authority. Yes, we are up. It was last half a year was quite challenging. And then what is also upcoming, the Cyber Resilience Act, which is more, it's a broader view on that. You might have heard it for updates of mobile phones and things like that, and which is also upcoming, where I'm working in the Brussels in the expert group, is the Network Code on Electricity, Cybersecurity, the NCCS. And this code is basically focusing on the risk of having an electricity failure in between countries. So it's focusing on a very high level, which minimum standard needs to be achieved, that you don't have a blackout through more than one country. And this is what you see. It's the number of these directives and guidelines. It's very fast developing because a lot of the national authorities, the Brussels authorities, they already saw that there is a real risk. And for us, it's to fulfill all these standards, directives. That's quite challenging. Also, this is why also our world is fast developing, also on the company side. Okay, I saw here one question from Darmir. What is the best security protocol today, in your opinion, and why? I would put this question on a parking lot and answer it later. There is also another question: how safe is Germany compared to the rest of Europe? I would put this also to a parking lot, because I have one of the question. You can have a certain discussion on that, but both questions are noticed. We will come up to them later. And there is something. I mean, now is the hard part of the slides. You saw a lot of pictures. Now there's a lot of text, and like in real life, there is always two sides of a coin. So the Kritis companies are not developing the products; they use them. So this is something what is very vital for us. If somebody says, I want to directly be the person developing the code in one of the safety relays or in a SCADA system or whatever, we are like a system integrator. We are buying these products, we take care that they fit to each other, and we want to make the use of them. What is important for us, we want to understand the products we purchase and operate. And this is what I said, we are in charge to get all the different products from the different manufacturers work together. So, and to really ensure that they work together, you need to understand the product you buy, that you really understand where is the nitty-gritty details, where things are going well or not going well. And this is what I would describe as a system integrator. And of course, when a failure happens, we want to dive down to the root cause. We want to really know why a failure did happen, because we want to avoid a second failure caused by the same weakness. And the good thing is, I wrote it down in the last line, most of us are on a rotating on call duty. So if it's like Saturday night, 11 o'clock in the night, and you get the phone call and okay, we are out of service because of this and that component is not working, then you have to go there, you have to fix it, you have to call your colleagues, you have to do whatever is necessary, you have to call the vendor. And if this happens the first time, you say, okay, but you're pretty sure you don't want to have this a second time, that you're sometime in the night, maybe also if it's really a bad day, then it's on holidays with like Christmas or things like that. And this is, of course, people want to avoid this, and we also want to avoid it from a company point of view. So if you really have a severe failure, we want to know what happened, why did it happen, how we can fix it. Do we have to do something in the rest of our electrical system? Yeah, now it's a little bit better. Pictures are back. There is a special relationship between the vendors and us as a customer. If we look to vendors like Siemens, or if you look to vendors like ABB, then we try to keep a close relationship. And this is where we say, in honesty, we trust, or this is vital for us. Because as we saw in the beginning of the slides, money can't recover the result of a bad delivery. If we are half a day out of service, then it's a huge problem for the town. And this cannot be recovered by money. And what sometimes happens, if you go to a vendor and you say, I have a problem, maybe some of you saw the latest AMD CPU problems with the overheating. You go to a vendor and say, okay, there's a problem. A typical reaction of an average vendor is, no, you are the first customer reporting this. We never saw this problem. We can't explain why it happened. It must be a single failure on your side. And if this is not the truth, then if I'm a private customer, so yeah, it's not good, but it's not the same consequence. We as a company serving a critical infrastructure, we have a problem with this kind. If a vendor behaves in this kind, then we are really, then we're really upset. We are getting really angry about that. So we want to have a real relationship. So if something happens, we want to have an open exchange with the vendor. Are we the first? Does it happen more often? What do we do against this, and things like that? And this is where we probably the interaction becomes a little bit closer. It becomes special compared to some product. I saw just another question in the chat from Jacob. How tested are these products? Can there be a possible built-in trap fall in the hardware? I have a slide attacking this, and the question is, of course, there can be something built in if you see the discussion of the 5G mobile network we have in Germany, that Huawei is expected to be not that trusted compared to Ericsson, which is the second vendor. Yes, this is something we fear, and we saw also in the history that sometimes there are backdoors, hardware or software backdoors built in, and this is something which is quite problematic. We come to some point of this later. Yeah, and of course, on the other hand, besides all support we get from the vendor, there is some information from the vendor which is not disclosed. We don't get all our details because of some of the knowledge is vital for the vendor to keep his technical standard compared to the other vendors in the market. And this point needs always to be, we need to understand that the vendor cannot be 100% transparent, but on the other hand, the vendor needs to know that our common goal is supply Munich, that the vendor is part of the chain, that the vendor is not only supplying us, he's supplying Munich. And this creates this very special combination of operating company and vending company. And the fourth conclusion I have here, all players on the field, service companies, vendor authorities, official bodies, customers, etc., are required to achieve the target. No one of these players is able to really achieve the target by its own. And preparation is very important to, I put it here in, to defend or survive a cyber attack. If you're not prepared, if your risk management system and your system how to come back, actually the business continuity, if it's not, then you have a problem. And what we didn't mention in all the slides before is, I wanted to put it in because it's very important. Awareness. People are one of the main things we are looking for. And I have one example here. I don't tell you the name of the company, but there was a phishing mail campaign. So it was a testing to the company of random employees of an IT department. And they got a success rate of nearly 70%. And actually the management was a bit shocked because they saw they are the specialists. They know if they are allowed to click, and they know about all the nitty-gritty technical details, but still about 70% at this test of the IT employees clicked and said, oh, let's have a look. What's behind that link? And this is something, awareness I think you can't train it often enough. You need to make people aware that there is a safety issue here. And we are nearly at the end, but there is one thing which is now addressing and which is changing. It's the business continuity management. I mean, the task was always there, and of course is still present, but the way how we addressing is, or how we tackle it, is changing. And in these days, there's a more formal approach like the business continuity management. And it's really, you identify which processes are really critical with respect to your final product. You might have processes which are in an everyday operation, very critical, like, are you able to place an order to a vendor? Are you able to do whatever? But these processes, when it comes to a real critical situation, you may not be able to place an order at the vendor. It might be able, you give them a phone call and the signature and say, please deliver it me. Everything else we will clarify. But there are some processes, like in our case, we need to run the grid for the electrical, for water and whatever. These processes need to be up, and these processes need to be in service. They need to function. One thing what we learned from the Ukrainian war is that operational technology structures will be successfully attacked. We see no possibility at the moment that you can bring up your security up to a level that this is not possible. I sometimes compare it a little bit with with the treasure at the bank. There are a lot of criminals, and they blow up the concrete structure, and they open the door, and so they rob out the bank. And no bank in the history was able to build a structure that the bank is 100% safe against robbery. This is probably not possible. And so critis companies have to be prepared with this situation. And in principle, you say you need to detect the net attacker. You need to isolate the attacker. For some time, you need to operate manually your services. You need to have some staff out in the substation, for example, to operate with a walkie-talkie or something like that, or with a mobile phone. And then you need to restore your system to be up in the normal operation. Sounds simple. And of course, these 4 steps, in principle, they are simple, but when it comes to performing each of this step, getting difficult. And now I have some questions also for the discussion we can step into. And one of these discussions, this is addressing a little bit the question we had with the how products are tested, or can they be traps in there? And what we are discussing is on a national and also European basis, should authorities regulate hardware for critical infrastructure? In Germany, we have at the moment our national authority restricted the further use of Huawei for the 5G mobile networks. So here we have already an advice for our sector, for example, for the critical infrastructure serving energies. Up to now, there is no advice like this. But of course, there are pros and cons. I mean, is a company really able to test an equipment up to a level that we are sure that there is no backdoor, no trap, no something like that inside? For my personal feeling, if a company would be able, it wouldn't be only the very, very large one. But actually, my personal point of view is, as a company, you're not in a position that you can really test it. Same, yeah, a little bit from another perspective. I put it in there as the German way. We have an authority approval for smart meters. And this authority approval is that the BSI, the German Cyber Defense Authority, they tested each smart meter in detail, very, very, very deep. So they did this job. The problem was that it took us years and years and years to get the smart meters allowed for the market. And so timing was an issue there. And actually, I discussed with some of my colleagues from other countries, and because we are sometimes in Germany not happy because of the timing. Some other companies, they go for the second rollout of smart meters, and we are going for the first rollout. So we are far behind in Germany. But still, some of my other colleagues say, you will see at the end, your testing will be very good, and it will be best practice, and it will be, we should have done this before. Others say, oh no, all this time we lose. Time is pressing, time is something we don't have. So make things happen, test it up to a certain level, but accept a certain risk. There are always different voices here in this. And I think it's very difficult to decide what is the best way. So this is a bit the question from Jacob, how these products are tested. And the smart meters, for example, they are tested with common criteria. So they are really tested in depth. And also what we discussed also in Brussels, which is quite taking hours and hours and days, what and when should or must a cyber attack be reported to authorities? And because you want to, of course, warn other energy companies that, okay, we are facing a cyber attack, successful or not. So we have this and this information about the cyber attack. Please do this and that to prepare yourself. This is quite difficult because also sometimes you even know if you have a cyber attack, for example, if a system is not working anymore. Is it a cyber attack or is it simply a malfunction? I mean, if there is water in your hardware, then you know, okay, it will not be a cyber attack if the water will damage the hardware. But sometimes if it's not obvious, what do you report? My SCADA system is or a part of my SCADA system is out of operation, but I don't know if it's really a cyber attack or not. Okay, I see. This is the last slides, and I see two questions from Sandra and from Severin. How often critical infrastructure is attacked at what scale, and what is the usual way? Okay. I think this is a bit what I put in here, this yes, I can. I mean, this is, we are confident in our capabilities, in our team, in the willingness. And we know if you're not on call duty and you give a phone call to your colleague and say, I need your help here, even if it's the weekend, we are nearly 100% sure that he or she will say, yes, give me 30 minutes and I'll be there and help you. But we also respect the limit of our knowledge and the power of the attacker. So we know that it's getting more and more difficult. But we also know we will never give up because Munich needs to be serviced by us. And this is why we say in the principle, yes, we can or I can, and we put everything in there that this will happen. So now we come up to the backup slides now. I tried to answer the questions of Severin. How often critical infrastructure is being attacked? In Germany, it's compared very seldomly. In Germany, we have about 850 energy companies in the electrical sectors, and only a few of them are attacked. So I would say it would be as a severely attacked, like not in DDoS on a web server or something like that. It will be much lower than 1%. The usual way is actually there are two typical ways. The one is you go with the office infrastructure and try to move on. The other one is very old, that put an USB stick somewhere and have a look that the USB stick is plugged into some of this. But actually at the critical infrastructure, it happens very rarely that we know about that. Then I see one comment from Sandra. This is, as long as the EU trusts real expert and isn't driven by a lobby or in general money, I think it's better to be on the same page when it comes to security and technology. It's so true. It's always better to have arguments and to look at the reason and to see what you can do with that, instead of looking to the money side. I mean, money might be sometimes a limiting factor, but money should not be the driving factor or the reason why you do something. And as far as I understood at the moment, really the topic is driven, the experts are driving. It's in this area, it's not the lobbying and the money. This is my personal impression. Hopefully I'll be right. And then there is a question, how it is it in Munich? When or why is a cyber attack reported? If we have the feeling that it's a cyber attack, it's reported immediately. Our grid is operated 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. So there's always someone present. And when we have the feeling that it's a severe cyber attack, we have we have our plans, how we get people together, who do we inform, who is coming in. So this starts immediately. And the why is actually if you see something abnormal is happen and you have the feeling that it could be a cyber attack, then the procedure are starting. So it's the why is very different. And the first step is, for example, you call because the dispatchers which are operating it, if they have certain abnormalities, if they think something is not right, then we have our on-call duties and they call the experts. And in the cybersecurity area, the typical is the expert is starting the laptop. He's actually via VPN. It's stepping in and having a first view from an expert. If the expert is still in the situation that he says, "Oh, it looks weird. I can't think about that this is right," then other experts are called and they are going on site, because on site we have certain access possibilities we don't have from remote, because we block some of the remote accesses for security reasons, of course. Okay, then Darmir says, maybe a stupid question, probably not. I'm curious, what was the biggest cyber attack in Germany until now? I think the biggest attack was to the Bundeskanzleramt. So they have been attacked, successfully attacked. I think it was 5 years ago or something like that. And in Berlin, they have been down for some weeks or something like that. And for security reasons, they built up the complete network new, because they were not sure how deep the attacker were in the system. And this was quite a large issue and cost a lot of money. And they afterwards stepped up with the security measures of all the people working for the government. Okay, so I would be 11 o'clock. Oh my God. I would be, it took longer than expected, but nevertheless, maybe some discussion is ongoing, and maybe some questions. If I missed one of the questions, please put it in the chat again. It was probably difficult for me to have a few on the slide and on the questions, so I try to answer every question as good as I can.
Kurt, hello again.
Hello,
Thanks so much for all the input. It was really interesting. The information with the attack on the Bundeskanzleramt, I never heard of this. Was this like a bit more downplayed, maybe in the news? Do you remember this?
It was like you heard it for 2 or 3 days, and then of course there was very little information out. So the background, why, what, when, and precise information, they didn't step it out. And like in the press, if you don't have new information, nothing is older than the newspaper from yesterday. It was after 2-3 days, it was out of the news. And so it was probably not present to everybody, but it was because it's in the heart of Germany. When you directly attack the governmental, then it was really it was shocking a bit. But I would have to have a look into the Google when it happened precisely.
Yeah, I will definitely after the session. But do you yourself have any clue or any educated guess, who could have hacked them? For whom it would be most beneficial?
I mean, the question is what you said. If you start from the backside and who is for which party it would be beneficial, then typical it's the security of another country. So the government of another country wanted to have more detailed information, and starting from that point, it's getting now difficult, because we saw that also the United States had some interest in more detailed information from Germany, but Some people told us it might be Russia, it might be Chinese, but this is all in some area of an expectation or of a personal view probably, and the governmental they never stated who it was. If they have an idea, if they have some hints about that, they never made it public, because it's also, if you accuse another state you attacked me, might be difficult then afterwards.
Better not. All right, Kurt, we already heard so much technical stuff from you today, but actually another colleague of you is joining us today, Elisabeth, who is IT recruiter at Stadtwerke Munich. So let's welcome her also on stage. Hello, Elisabeth.
Hello to everybody.
Hello, thank you also so much for joining. And yeah, since we already talked so much about Kurt, better to say Kurt told us so much about cybersecurity. Maybe let's start also a bit from your perspective of the company. You are also at Stadtwerke München in IT recruitment. Maybe you want to tell us a bit more about the job positions you're offering right now, some job descriptions, or maybe even like a day-to-day work of some of the jobs there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yes, thank you very much, Benedict. I would like to tell you a little bit about recruiting at Stadtwerke Munich and about the open positions on the moment. Yes, I'm Elisabeth. I'm recruiting especially for IT positions. And I'm working at Stadtwerke Munich more than 5 years, so I know the IT department very, very well, and I know the open positions. For example, and Kurt mentioned one very, very interesting topic. It was a business continuity manager. That is, for example, one open position here at the Stadtwerke Munich. Or other positions are the security experts. There we are looking for juniors and for professionals. Or we are looking for data protection experts, also for juniors or for professionals. And that's only some positions where we are looking for.
All right, thank you. Then maybe let's circle back real quick also to some more technical stuff, if it's okay with you, Kurt, or do you need a glass of water in between or something? You already talked for over an hour.
No, I have a glass of water, and I used the time in between when Elisabeth told something about our positions. It was in 2015 that the Bundestag was hacked the first time. There was some in 21. There was another hacking, but the first was in 2015.
All right. Okay, thanks for that background information. We also got some questions in our questions section, so maybe I can read just some of them out to you.
Of course.
As there are some things we didn't discuss. For example, one very interesting thing, and it's actually a topic we have on a lot of live days, because artificial intelligence is such a big thing now. And Max wants to know, what is the role of artificial intelligence in cybersecurity?
Mm-hmm. In cybersecurity, we have it at the moment when we try to detect malware. There are two approaches in general. The one is you have a signature of a malware, you know already this is malicious, it's a code you don't want to have. And with a signature, you try to extract it. First you try to recognize it, and then you try to remove it. But of course, if there is a new malicious code coming and new actions are happening, you don't have a signature, then you have a problem. And there, the artificial intelligence is stepping in. So we see more and more systems which are using artificial intelligence to try to identify, is the system in a normal state? Are the actions in the system in a normal state? Or is something happening which looks unusual, which looks critical? And so in general, this is already good working. What we have sometimes a problem, or most systems have problems, if you're installing a new software. The the behavior of your computer, of your software, of your operational system is very similar, like you have a malware or a malicious code. So for an artificial intelligence, it's very difficult to have a real malware action or to have an installing action there. So to decide on which is what is sometimes tricky. What is, of course, one solution is that you say to the system, okay, now I will install a new software. Please be patient for a while. After it's finished, I will go again for the AI and make the AI working again.
All right, I see. Yeah, thanks for that insight also. Circling back to you, Elisabeth, actually the people in our chat also want to know a bit more about the job positions you explained to us earlier, because Sandra is asking, what does a usual workday look like? And is it also possible to work remote at the Stadtwerke München?
Mm-hmm. Okay, yes, thank you very much, Sandra, for this question. I can't tell you exactly how a usual work day is looking like, because I think there's a great variety. But I can very well answer your question about remote work, about home office. Yes, that's possible. And so there is a difference between our departments. Although normally it's possible that you work 3 days from home and you go 1 or 2 days in the office. We like it. We like to meet people in the office. We are in our company. There's a very friendly atmosphere. It's almost familiar atmosphere, and so we like to meet in the office. But of course, there is the possibility of a remote work, and I can say that it was up to Corona. We had this policy, this remote policy. So it's not totally new, and we are used to it, and we like it.
I can add a piece of the information about the working day, because it depends. Cybersecurity is a broad field, and it's really we have personnels or persons which are on site, which are in the substations, which are in the district heating areas. And they do the maintenance, they do testing, they do firmware updates, and they are typically out in Munich. There is no, for this kind of working, you don't have the possibility to work from a home office. But still, even being in such a position, you have some parts of your work where you need to write some reports, where you need to have some analysis. So these are positions where you have maybe 4 days, 3 to 4 days, you're out in the field and you're working in the plant, and then you have about 1 or 1.5 days where you have home office. On the other hand, like if you look, we have the experts for IT security, or the manager for IT security, or my work when I go with the guidelines. In principle, you can do it 100% from remote. So there is no limitation on that. And there is, like Elisabeth said, sometimes we are calling each other and when are you next week in the office? It's like Tuesday or Wednesday, and yeah, I will be there. Yeah, I'm coming also. And like in my department, we are on Wednesday, we have our department meeting. And it turned out that Wednesday is 80% of the people are on Wednesday in the office, because everyone likes to see the other one and say, okay, let's have a coffee there. It's really, people are organizing themselves.
Yeah, I totally understand the aspect also of meeting the team members, especially if it's like such a familiar atmosphere. But Corona also showed us that it can really work out with remote jobs. So you can also recruit people from other countries, for example. So really like that. Actually, the next another question is kind of related to that, because Azad wants to know, is there any opening for English speakers in the Stadtwerke München?
Mm-hmm. That's a very interesting question. Thank you very much for this. As you probably know, we are a German-speaking company. I have to say this, but we are today here and we speak German, we speak English, and so it is possible. But we like to recruit people who speak other languages, but who want to speak German and to learn German, and we support them. We have German language courses, and we will give every help and every support, but there have to be the willingness to learn German, because every communication, written and spoken, is in German.
Okay.
And
So
I think this is very important. Like you said, Elisabeth, we are aware that we are making steps towards, a German-English company, but the steps are at the very beginning. And so, if you want to be an early bird in this in this process, you really need to learn German at this point in time.
Okay, so at this point, German speaking is not a plus, but it's a must actually. But maybe in
the
some
moment,
years,
yes.
when the process is more adult, then maybe you can also accept English only. Okay, perfect. Thank you for that answer as well, Elisabeth. Actually, Sandra, who asked before about the day-to-day work, she's asking also about the team. How big are the teams? And do you work with Scrum or Agile or another principle?
Okay. There are several teams, and I'm looking for a position in several departments. So I can't answer the questions about the teams. Maybe there are 10 people, maybe there are 20. So it depends on the department, and there are several departments where I'm working for. And the other question was?
How your workflow principles are, if you're working with Scrum, an Agile system.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Of course. Yes. We are working with Agile, we are working with Scrum, not in the whole company. So maybe I have to say that we are 11,000 people in our company, and we have these different departments like energy and mobility, and maybe public transport and everything. So there are differences, but in the IT department, and I'm recruiting for the IT department, where we work after the Agile principles, we work with Scrum. I'm looking for Scrum Masters as well. So that's no problem for us, and we know it.
All right. Yeah, maybe you can maybe explain how you deal with this in your team, like your team size and how your workflows are?
Yes.
To give a bit more insight.
Yes, of course. There are 3 teams with the different topics, and the one team is based on project managers and experts, like IT experts, but also GDPR experts. And this is our 13 people. And the main things we are doing is that we're going for Agile principles. But what we are like to do is we first try to understand our problems. So it's a little bit like in the design thinking. And when in the phase of understanding the problem, we see that there is a classical project management is the best way. We have something where we can define our target very good. We have an idea about the money or the resources we need, and maybe we have done it already in the history. Then we really go for a classical project management, and things are done. If we see that, like we have a product, we have a software in-house where we get from all our sources, from the SAP, from the geo information system, and from others, we combine all this information and display it on the card for the employees, that they can step into archives and things like that. And if we have this kind of a product where you say you have a development and you know that there are new ideas upcoming, what would be in the software or not, then it's really something where we say we go for in this case, it's Scrumban. It's a combination of Scrum and Kanban this team uses. So then the team is going for the agile method, but actually the team is deciding. And like in this team, it's the team thought they first started with a Scrum, and then the developers said, it's not perfect. We would like to have it different. And then they came up with a Scrumban with this combination, and they were happy with that. So this team is working with a Scrumban. And in another project we have, because we need to get all the manual interactions out in the grid, we need to have a central database to know actually every minute what is how our grid looks precisely. And in the history, this was done with papers and written down. At the end of the day, it was brought in. And so this is a bit of an old-fashioned working style. And now we're looking, how can we digitalize this? And there we do design thinking. So we really do the first problem understanding, then the solutions. And actually each team is deciding for their task, this is our perfect approach. We want to do it like that. And I'm not aware in any of the SVM history that a boss told, no, you're not allowed. I think this is not happening.
Awesome. Thanks for that input also, Kurt. Maybe since we heard so much about your teams, do you have any specific roles also open in your team, or are you full stacked right now?
We have one role open. It's an IT security or an OT security expert. So if you have like the ideal candidate, would be experienced with the operational technology, what you've seen, would be experienced with cybersecurity, and we are focused more on the management part. So we are focused more on the questions, how do all the actions fit together, that at the end we are very resilient. I think this was a question from Sandra also, that how do we ensure this? Actually, when you go for audits like the ISO 27000, then if you perform this audit well and if you do a good job, then this is actually that is performing. Then you have the audit by a third party, which telling you, yes, you did a good job, you're resilient.
Right. Thank you. Yeah, I'm pretty confident that applicants will fly in through the week.
I hope so.
Maybe because you told us earlier, Elisabeth, that you encourage people and help people to learn German at your company. We have one question from Kevin. He says, I live in Belgium and I want to learn German. Where can I do it? So maybe you have some go-to points for people abroad who like to learn the language.
No, I don't know how the situation in Belgium is, and if there are special companies who give German courses. I'm sure there are companies, I don't know, there's maybe the Goethe Institute, which has a certain reputation, but I'm very sure that there are also other companies, language training companies where you can learn German. There are these steps from A1 to C2, maybe you know it, and we say, okay, minimum has to be B1 to start in our company. And I think it means that you had already some courses of German language and that you have a feeling of the structure of German. And then, but even if you have no knowledge of German, let's say it's A1 or A2, we help you, we support you. We have these German courses. I don't know what you can do in Belgium. But you can come here, can start here, can live here. We have apartments for you if you come from Belgium. And yes, we would like to support you.
Yeah, Kevin, look through all the openings of Stadtwerke Munich. Vielleicht, maybe there is something already waiting for you, and yeah, that could be your chance to learn German. Maybe a quick real tip from my side. I learned Spanish with an app called Duolingo, and it's I believe it's only
Yes, of course.
also available in Belgium. So maybe start with that, with like for the basics. And so, yeah, good. Circling back to a bit more of the technical part, since we have so many open questions right now. Maybe as a next one, what are some best practices for managing cybersecurity risks in critical infrastructure?
Yeah, I think the framework which is the best at the moment is the business continuity management, and this is also like if in my view it is one of the best practices which is now more formalized, because you really have a look on what is critical in the moment of a severe cybersecurity attack. So when my systems are really down, how do I do that? And you need to write down that, you need in advance to have people responsible for certain tasks. And this is also like in the Stadtwerke Munich, we have documents defining which person is responsible for what. And then you're really, if it comes to a crisis, when it really gets not only a small area of Munich without energy, if it really like whole Munich, then you have also the plan how to involve the town hall, how to involve the mayor or other official bodies. So you need in advance to really make a plan to say from which step onward you need to go with which action, and you need to train people. And this is something we are now doing more intensely, the training of this critical situations that in the past we relied a little bit more on the paper, on structuring it. Now we are doing more of the testing, more of trainings.
Okay, thanks for these answers. Well, Kurt. Another question would be, you already talked during the talk a bit about all the products and infrastructure you are developing security for, but there is a question from Antonio. What are some examples of critical infrastructure that require special attention in terms of cybersecurity?
And in principle, you can, I give you an example after, or some examples afterwards. In principle, if you do the business continuity management, you go back and say what is absolutely vital to run my business, to deliver water, to deliver heat or whatever, or natural gas. And then you come down to some, like in our case, we need to have a few on the grid. So the SCADA system is one of the critical infrastructure systems where you say this systems visualizes you what's happening out in the town. And if this system is out, if this system is going down, I don't know any company which doesn't have a backup system. So you have always two systems. And these systems are also, they are redundant. In one location, they are already redundant. So if you have like two rings of fiberglass and you have an A and an B workstations and things like that. And if one, and we had the situation in the past that especially the router which is deciding, do I'm using A or B infrastructure, the A or B fiberglass ring had a problem, and so one of the locations went completely black. It was within, it was really spooky. It was within 5 minutes. The working stations are going down, 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 down. It was really like in a film. It was one after another is going out of service. And then it was, then you're getting nervous, very nervous. And then it really starts the procedure you have trained. So then you have the car with the blue lights, and then you relocate all your staff to the new location, to the remote location, and you keep your fingers crossed that there everything is working. And okay, in this case everything was working, and then you start with your normal business, and of course you call in every specialist you think which is available, and start doing the analysis what's happened here, and you start recovering the original system, and So these or what we saw before with the safety relays. So all the systems which are located remote, not centrally, they are typically systems which are vital for the critical infrastructure, and there we have a special focus on. If
Okay,
like
yeah,
our web servers is down, yeah, that's bad, but not a problem.
Right, yeah, very understandable. But that also means since you have two systems and one backup, until you have a really full fallout, there needs to be really a critical attack, and you're always like backup. So that's good to know.
Yes.
Yeah, kind of a relief. Connected to your answer, one question from Ankita, who wants to know, what is a fiberglass link?
Okay. In many cases, you have in your computer is with a wireless LAN with a Wi-Fi, or if you're plugged in with a LAN cable with a local area network cable. And in our cases, in the locations where all the information is concentrated, so where you have a view on the whole grid of a town, then you typically couple in between the different routers. You do it not with a cable, you do it with a fiberglass. So you do it so now it comes to the problem that I don't know an alternative word in English. So you're doing with a light. You transfer the information via light, not via copper, because it has some beneficial things when it comes to magnetic fields and things like that. Then a copper cable has certain restrictions. If you transfer from one computer to the other computer the information via the light or via the light cable, then it's typically more reliable.
Yes, I can back that. I've connected my home studio to the TV via a light cable. So yeah, that's that's a good thing. Circling back a bit to company stuff, some people wanted to know what's like a question to both. What is the coolest or best thing about working at Stadtwerke Munich? Or maybe let's talk about some of the benefits you have for your employees in general.
I would like to start with the coolest or best thing to work at Stadtwerke Munich. I think that the fact that you can identify yourself as a company every day and in almost everything you do. For example, when you walk through the city and you go shopping, then you know, okay, there's the electricity. Okay, my colleagues made it. Okay, then I want to drink something. That's the water. Okay, my colleagues. Then you go by bus or by tramway or so, and you say, okay, there's a colleague, there's a driver, that's a colleague of mine, and so it goes on and on. And I think that's the most coolest thing to work at the Stadtwerke Munich.
I can 100% support this, because it's your work has a real sense, and you know that I mean, the good thing is, despite all money, despite all what happening, you know your work will be required in 1 year, in 10 years, in 50 years. As long as the city of Munich will exist, it will need the network, it will need the mobility and things like that. So this is really, it feels quite good. And what I personally like also, we are not a profit-driven company. So we are owned by the town of Munich. And of course, we need to be economic, and we need to earn our money. So no question about that. We are not a welfare, but still, it's earning money is not the only task we have on our task list. It's one of the tasks we need to do, but it's not our absolutely top priority, where we say everything other is doesn't matter. And I think this is something, this feels very good.
And
yeah,
I would like to add to that what Kurt said, and would like to tell a little bit about the benefits. And I think one benefit is that we offer almost all professions unlimited. And we offer these positions in a very secure and stable situation. So we know that the Stadtwerke Munich will be forever. There will be no problem in these jobs. So it's very stable, it's very secure situation. And of course, we pay money. And we have a lot of other benefits. For example, there's a discount on electricity, or there's a discounted tickets for the public transport, and there are some other benefits. And there's a company pension scheme, so we pay for a pension. That's normal for us, and we do it for all our people. So I think that. A little bit about the benefits.
Really cool benefits. Also, like for the electrical bill nowadays, I think that could be a major selling point. And so,
yes.
and so, as you're taking care of the security, every citizen of Munich is needs your work in one way or another. So I think that's also maybe a pushing point. And as long as Munich exists, and if you're in a phase where if we are in a phase where like a city like Munich ceases to exist, I think people have other problems than finding jobs. So I think that's a very good point also. Maybe also a bit of connected to that question, Mark wants to know, how does the company approach diversity and inclusion in their hiring process?
That's a very good question. Thank you very much, Mark, for this question. We think that we are a company who likes diversity. So we are a proud community. We have a proud community, and in hiring, so we make no difference between nationality or age or everything else. For example, we have almost 80 nationalities in our company. Of course, they speak German, but 80 nationalities. So it's very, very normal to meet people who are not German here. And yes, we have this proud community. Yes, for example, maybe you know that there will be Christopher Street Day in June in Munich, and our executive board will take part on this Christopher Street Day. We will be there with the company and with a lot of people out of our company. It's a big event for our company. We will join there. We have been there last time. I think over 100 people have been there, and yes. I hope that's
it's very nice thing. So you're not only promoting diversity, you are really living it at your company, and that's a really nice thing to hear. And circling back to the candidates, Anna wants to know, what qualities do you look for in a candidate beyond the technical skills?
That's a very good question. That's concerned with the social soft skills, and I think first of all, it's very important to like to work in a team. It's this capability to work together, to work in a team, as well as to work alone. But we like it to work together in different parts, and so this is one thing that is very, very important for us. And then we like to communicate. And so we need people who can communities and who like to communicate, and that's also very, very important for us.
Yeah, and I think what I always have a look is I like self-motivated people. So in Stadtwerke Munich, it's not the case that your boss is standing behind you and pushing you. You have to do this and you have to do that, and you made 10 minutes of a break. Oh no, that's not possible. So this is not the style we are working. So we are really looking. We're giving people a freedom. We're giving them flexibility, and we really enjoy it if they organize themselves. If they really come back with a result and say, okay, this is how we did it and how we figured it out, and for us, it turned out that this is the best way for both parties.
Yeah, sounds very reasonable to me, at least. Also kind of connected to the skills. Kevin from Belgium wants to know if it's important to know programming languages. So I think it would depend on the job offer, but maybe you can give us some insight if there are also IT jobs where you don't have to know any special programming language.
Of course, there are jobs like project managers where you don't have to know these program languages as deep as, for example, for developers. Of course, there are such positions. As I mentioned before, we have a lot of open positions, but I think for security, you have to need an understanding for programming languages and understanding how they work. I think that's maybe it's more important than to know especially one or another programming language. Or Kurt, what do you think?
Yes, I think, like you said, we have, of course, positions where you need to have the knowledge of a certain language. In our case, what I said, we are a little bit more on a system integrator, so we need to understand what's happening. And when I have a look to what if myself and the colleagues, many of us know about one or two programming languages we're using, here and then. So like Python is, I learned Python myself about, I think 2 years ago or 3 years ago. And in my daily business, I'm using Python very seldomly because it's not my task to do Python programs. But at home, if I do some home automation, if I do something like that, I'm using Python. And this helps me in my daily business to understand what are typical problems when you're programming systems, what are typical problems in the cybersecurity when you have a module of a code and you implement it into an overall code thing. So it helps you understanding things which are ongoing, even if you're not doing it on a daily business. And so some of our guys, they are more stepped in or less stepped in. It depends a little bit on the personality, but I think this is, if you're in this area interested, then you want to step in the one or in the other area, you want to get a little bit deeper inside, and even if it's not necessarily for work.
Yeah, so you don't need programming languages everywhere, but kind of a technical affinity is good if you want to start here. Okay. So yeah, thank you both for these answers. Very good question. Maybe also to wrap this a bit up, this whole recruiting process, can you provide any examples of successful hires the company has made in the past and what made them successful? Like when you look back on and maybe some newer colleagues.
I'm not sure if I understood the questions.
I mean, I can answer the question in the way I understood it.
Please.
What we are looking always on the two sides of a candidate. The one is, of course, there is some technical possibility the candidate has. So we have a job description, and you need to have certain knowledge to fulfill the job. And of course, the better your knowledge fits to the job, the better it is. But we often have it also that I'm like 70% fulfilling the profile, but there are still 20 or 30% missing. And of course, we can talk about how can we develop somebody into the remaining 20 or 30% with that. And on the other hand, there is the person, like Elisabeth told about, is this a team player? Is he or she able to communicate? And this is the second half. What is the motivation? And so let me say it like this: if the person is really überzeugen, if the person is really convincing us, then this is the second part. And each person is different, so there is no profile that you say you have to be this, and this, and then the person is convincing us. Each person is different, and each person has its strengths and weaknesses. And if you're aware of your own strengths and weaknesses, then this is convincing for us.
Very wise words right there. Maybe kind of connected also to that, bit more of a general question, but I also like it very much from Mario. Can you share any tips or advice for job seekers looking to break into the tech industry? So maybe where to look and maybe how to fill out your profile, maybe things like that. What IT recruiters are looking for most of the time.
I don't know. I think we are looking for an interesting CV. And so we are looking for the things you had done. We are looking for the things you are interested in. Yes, maybe, I don't know, maybe I can tell you how recruiting works,
Yes, please.
but I'm not sure if how can I tell you how to fill out the forms. In our process, of course, there's an application, and then we check the application, the recruiting checks, and the hiring manager. And so, and if it looks good, then there will be a first get to know date. We call it a Kennenlerngespräch. It's the first interview between the hiring manager and the applicant. It's just to know each other. And yes, there are some technical questions to know the background, the experience, but maybe we are meeting in a cafe. We have a cafe in our locations here, and when both sides agree, okay, that was very interesting, and I would like to go further in this process, then there will be another interview. It's called Auswahlverfahren, and there's the hiring manager, the applicant, and there will be one person of the recruitment, and it will be a longer day, maybe 1.5 hours, maybe 2 hours. It depends on the questions of the applicant, and after this we make a decision. So it's a very short process, and so I think maybe it lasts 2, maximum 3 weeks after we got the application.
And maybe to add one aspect, what I heard inside of the question is, I heard something like the technical industry. And my recommendation would be take a very close look to the company you want to work for. What I understood, I worked for 3 companies, and we were in contact with the numerous companies during this time. And what I see is that there are big differences between German-driven companies, American or Japanese-owned companies. So the way the people are working together, the way what is driving people, the expectations about a team, they are really different. And so for me, it's if to have a successful fit of an applicant or of an employee with a company, it's absolutely important to really have to have a look. What is the company? Does this company really fits to me as a person? And so this is something which is, if you're not have a good look there, then it's really like playing roulette, and you see, oh, it's red or black.
So identification is also a big key, obviously. If it's like it fits also a bit of your personality, maybe. To say. Since you also talked about maybe a bit more about the technologies involved in the hiring process, Kurt, we got a cool question from Damir to you. How do you keep up with the latest trends and developments in the tech industry? Maybe you have some tips to share with the audience.
Yes, I think it's a multi-path approach. And the one thing, of course, I take some of my business time to go through the latest news, to go to the informations I get via magazines and so on. The other thing, if you're working in Brussels or in Berlin, or if you contact with other energy companies, so if you get in touch with the branch, then you really get information out there. What are their problems? What is our problem? And you're exchanging on the latest status. And the third approach I have is what I said in beforehand, especially cybersecurity or IT. I use some of my own time, so it's not a business time. It's my free time I use to drive some projects on my own. So I have a home automation, or I run for some time a Nextcloud on a Raspberry Pi, and now I moved it on a professional server. But so I always run some projects to have like Python and things like that, to learn this by my own and to see how difficult is it, what are typical problems, how long does it take for me, and to get a feeling of that. And so there are some approaches to really keep up on that.
So maybe to sum up, keep yourself occupied with personal projects, and then it's only a natural way to learn the newest ones. Maybe also kind of connected to that question, we got another one from Anna, who wants to know what are some of the emerging technologies that can improve cybersecurity in critical infrastructure. Is there like a current trend to something, or is there like a new way?
Yes, I think there are two technologies. The one is also, the office IT, I call it sometimes. So the traditional IT has, it's a zero trust system, and this is upcoming now. Some of the companies are already using it. So you're moving away from a firewall structure to a structure that every participant in a network must identify himself when doing any request to another participant. So you really need to, for each piece of information you share, okay, I know 100% precisely with a certificate or things like that, that this information is coming from that, or this information is transferred to the participant. And in our OT environment, we are a little bit behind because development cycles are a little bit slower. But this is something where I see in the future. And the second is what we had in the AI, in recognizing malicious code is, I think this is also, AI is in, you pick up any news of an IT paper or of a website, and you see AI. There is, and this is something like the ChatGPT. There will be numerous things where this can be used.
Yes, I also integrated it also into my workflow in something. So at some points it works better, at some points it works not so bad. You have to figure it out for yourself. But I think AI will also provide access to like new jobs or create new jobs in general, I think, in the nearer future. And talking about jobs, back to you, Elisabeth. We have the question, how can we forward our CV to Miss Born? Sorry.
Yes, of course. I don't know. I can give you my email address, or I don't know, Benedikt, if you give the email address to, or you can go on the homepage of the Stadtwerke Munich, and there's a possibility to apply. There's a button to apply for the position, and you also have the possibility, if you don't find the right position for your profile, you can send us an Initiativbewerbung, and there's also the possibility to put to put on the button for an Initiativbewerbung, and then we will share these applications to different departments. We will check the applications, and then you will get an answer from me. I'll give you my address.
Yeah, thanks for that. We can post it, but we have also some of your jobs listed at WeAreDevelopers.com. So this is also a way you can apply, and it's also a very easy way, and you can directly forward them to Ms. Born. from there. So this is also an option for you. So another question from Kevin to you, Kurt. Since you mentioned that you're doing a bit of Python work in your free time, he wants to know, Kurt, do you have a website to learn Python for cybersecurity?
Yeah, when I started to learn Python, I didn't use a website. It was a bit of a kind of old-fashioned, but there is an author called L. Swigert. He's from the USA, and there's a starting book. I used it as an ebook to how to automate routine tasks with Python, and this was the starting book for me. So I picked up because in this book the principles are explained and how things are fitting together and how why things are done in the way they are done. So it explains a bit the basic principles, and from that on, there are numerous there are YouTube videos which are quite good. There are some web pages, but this was for me the starting point. It was quite good.
So lots of resources available. Since Python is kind of in a hype nowadays, I think it's not that hard to find something that fits your learning style. And maybe another question to both of you, maybe what role do government agencies play in ensuring cybersecurity for critical infrastructure?
They're getting more and more, the role is getting more and more intense because about 8 years ago, it was the first time that critical infrastructures need to certify according to the ISO 27000 standard. At this first certification, it was quite, it was having a look and putting some information here and there. It was not that hard. And you have to recertify externally every 2 years. And the level from the government to the recertification was getting up, because they invented the system, and now they're having a big. They want to ensure that the companies doing critical infrastructure are up to the cybersecurity. And so, like we had in the guidelines with the slide I had, it's really that you're getting more and more guidelines or more and more laws from the government, what to do, how to do, and they are more often controlled. So they're stepping in more and more, and I think this path is still not at the end. So we will see it in the next 5 or 10 years that, like in Germany, the BSI, they will have a very close look and they will tell you very precisely what to do.
But thanks for that answer as well, Kurt. Before we close the session, maybe do you have anything more to share with the audience? Some questions that didn't came up, some informations you want to give to them, regardless of technical or company side?
From my side, many thanks to the question. It was wonderful 2 hours, and I really enjoyed it. It was very different questions, and it also very wise questions. I never saw any stupid one, like one of the participants told us. It was very good. Really, fine. Thanks for the invitation, Benedikt.
Yes, thanks for joining, Kurt.
And I would like to say that I enjoyed the session also very much, and I would like to encourage everybody to send me an application. We will find a job for you because we have some open positions, and so I think it's wonderful to work in Stadtwerke Munich. Come to Munich, see our company. Thank you very much for everything, and Benedikt, thank you very much. It was a wonderful session.
Yeah, I can also give that back to you. It was wonderful to have you both of you. And then I would say, have a nice rest of the day. Many, many greetings to Munich from Vienna, and hopefully see you soon on maybe another live day. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Okay. See you soon.
You too. See ya.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, and before we start with the rest of the program today, we still have 4 speakers left for the day. We jump into a 1-hour lunch break, so you can grab a bite to eat, or if the weather is at your place also as good as here in Vienna, maybe take a quick walk, or if you're interested, go to worldcongress.dev, where you can get some information on upcoming speakers like Tim Berners-Lee, for example, and claim your early bird tickets as long as they are available. So we see each other at 1 p.m. Central European Summertime. Stay tuned.
Have you found your dream job as a developer? Or are you stuck in an unfulfilling job? On WeAreDevelopers.com, you find over 1,000 jobs in Europe that fit the tech stack that you want to work with, and salaries go up to $130K. All you have to do is create a free profile, and you automatically get matched with jobs that fit your requirements. So what are you waiting for? Create your free profile and let companies apply to you now.